We had a party. Oh my goodness. I am a little hungover today. Feeling a little tired, a little introverted. So I feel probably good for the video, out of body and empty. We had our work party last night. It was super fun. We had a photo booth, and then we had a tattoo booth, and we got little ampersand signs tucked away in little hidden places and things. And yeah, we had a good time dancing, and we had an open bar. And Hattie B's hot chicken and really good mac and cheese and all kinds of good stuff. So it was a really fun night. Everybody looked great. Everybody had fun. My outfit, oh my God, y'all, I loved my outfit. I had a silver dress that reminded me of Lady Gaga Grammy vibes, except from cider, but it turned out to be like a really good dress when it arrived. And then I had matching silver boots, so it's sort of like Barbarella disco. It was really over the top. And then I had a perfect opportunity to wear, I have like this bone lavender fur coat, and I never get to wear it, and it was like a perfect match to the outfit. And then I had my grandmother's like jewelry, which looked like it was straight out of Dylan Lex. So it was just like, it really went off. Everybody loved it. It was like the diva outfit. I loved it. But yeah, so that was a good time. So I did not get to make my video before the party, as you well know. It just took me longer than I thought to do all the nails and everything. Gather up all the paraphernalia and the substances to take to abuse. Ay, ay, ay. Well, we had a good time though. All right, so I thought I would go ahead and do our extended reading from our archetypal anchor message for the week, even though we missed it yesterday. And then after this, I will record our Oracle manifestation video for the week. And yeah, so we'll have both videos. Okay, so starting now. From the archetypes, these all came out together in a group, and I was like, I know this is all one story. And so I took them all. We got creator. We got Aletheia, which means truth. And I love this. Well, I'll get into that one. I don't not get ahead of myself. The poet. And the king. And underneath that, we got Justice, which is Libra, Emperor, which is Aries. I'm Aries, Libra, rising, Cancer, moon. It's funny. And Knight of Swords. Oh, so let's unpack. So I feel like this cluster here is very important together. The creator, Aletheia, and the poet. I'm feeling like this week we are primed to have like really profound insights, epiphanies, revelation, and a real connection with the awareness in a real way that we're co-creating our reality with divine, and we are literally a vessel for divine to experience itself through itself. Very exciting. So what I was going to say about this truth card, I love the symbolism here because it really reminds me of the holy sacred union and marriage of the divine masculine and feminine. We have the square, which is the most stable of the sacred geometrical shapes. We have these two triangular shapes that are coming together to create this square. And the masculine is like the upright triangle, and the feminine is the reverse triangle. And those, when they come together, create the Merkaba. And it's the sacred union of the divine masculine and feminine. And when that happens within us, that is like we can glimpse reality almost through the perspective of having been integrated and feeling it and seeing it all as one whole, instead of experiencing reality from the animalistic human level of duality, of separation of the higher self and the lower self, right? When the divine masculine and feminine come together, it's like the union with the lower self and the higher self. And it's like they become integrated and able to start embodying and existing and being in a state of oneness, in a state of connectedness to higher self and to source, which then spills over in this radiant energy and refulgent splendor of creation. Because you are now, it's like we've always been creating our own reality, but it's almost like no one's been in the captain's seat, no one's been in the driver's seat, no one's been driving the ship. Now you know you can drive the ship, and so now you're like, oh my gosh, now I know what I want to do with all of this, like my free will, my power. Oh my goodness, so exciting, right? This relationship with God, with divine, comes alive, and it becomes more than just this yoke you have to wear in a state of obedience and servitude and duty, and it becomes alighted with passion and magic. And so all of these depths that you've had to go to, all of the pain that has broken open your heart and your soul, and it has allowed those two to intermingle, has created or has activated the poet energy within you. And so the poet has to go to the darkest places, feel the depths of human feeling, so that the poet can express it on behalf of the whole and the collective. And so the poet feels not only for the sake of their own personal journey and in a personal way, and expresses in a personal way, but also feels on behalf of the whole, the universal, and expresses in a universal way. It's like the more personal the poet is, the more universal it becomes. This is something I can't remember. I feel like Lisa Presley said this, or no, Lisa Marie Presley said this. I saw her play one time at the cannery, and there was a Q&A afterwards, and somebody asked her like what made her a good songwriter, what she thought made good songwriting, and she said that the more personal that she was when she would write her songs, the more universal she found it to be, ironically enough. So it's really important that, it's funny, as a person who writes poetry, and I love poetry, I feel very vulnerable and silly when I share my poetry, because I feel that in our human reflexiveness and our cold, jaded fear and our separateness, we tend to laugh at the poet, or put the poet down, or it's like that raw vulnerability and openness can sometimes be so much, so it just holds that mirror back in our face that we get defensive, that we push it away, that we brush it off, right? But it's so important that the poet is brave enough and courageous enough to know that even though people might find them silly or funny or stupid or too whimsical or too romantic or what have you, maybe they think their poetry is shitty, maybe they think it's great, but you have to put it out there, right? And maybe you're not literally a poet, but this is just, it's about expressing your truth in your own unique way and getting really in touch with that for you. The poet, to me, can also be seeing the deeper meaning in life and finding the beauty even in the brutal times that you come through, even through the darker times and the painful times. You find the beauty in it. And so, yeah, it's important that we express the truth of how we feel and who we are, instead of putting up a mask or a cold, distant, cool, uncaring front. It's like that defense mechanism will just shut us off, and it'll shut us off from our creator power and our connection with that higher source. Because to have a connection with that higher source, we have to have affinity with it, and that higher source is compassion and love. And so it's important to keep our heart open and vulnerable. And so the king, I think that this is opening up this ability for our life to start reflecting like who we truly are. And like we have this like kind of like it's like everything in our kingdom, we've got it like together now. It's all sustainable. It's becoming more stable and secure because it's becoming a true, authentic expression of who we are. And because we have affinity with that, because it's naturally an expression of who we really are at a vibrational level, then we're going to be able to sustain it. It's going to be more eternal because we're not pushing ourselves into a box that we're not really fitting in, right? So like we're fine-tuning our dial to express the truth of who we really are. And it's like we're tuning into that radio station where we can finally tune in for that clear connection. And once we get there, that broadcast is going to attract the experiences, the people, the opportunities, the dreams, the manifestations that are going to be in resonance with that true frequency, right? And then those will be sustainable and stable and very fulfilling, right? And they'll add to that beauty. So yes, we're getting a hold of our kingdom. And because we have done the work to elevate and tend to our inner kingdoms of thought and feeling and, you know, our vision and our heart and soul, our outer reality is starting to blossom and become more stable and secure and expansive and open up as well. And so that is getting us even more clear about our truth and what we want. That's, you know, our life is finally kind of coming into balance, and we're coming into balance with our relationships to life and within the various like areas of our life, right? We're bringing those into balance. As we evolve as a spirit, as a soul, we are bringing the governing forces within ourselves into balance. That's what we have to do with our masculine and feminine energy. It's a dance between those within us, you know, balancing our spiritual insight and creativity and wisdom with our discernment and logic and reason, right? And dispassionate self-analysis. So dispassionate self-analysis has been working, and we've been bringing those governing forces within us that maybe have been off balance or they've been polarized. They're coming into a balanced state. The emperor is like in control of all of their kingdoms in their life, which is great. I think that this is talking about like getting your shit together on every level, and it's causing you to have like, it's causing you to flourish, be very independent and self-reliant, self-assured, and this is all really good. However, I think that there can be a message of warning in the Emperor card because of all of this vulnerability, especially when it comes to the poet Brené Brown. And I think it's her most famous TED Talk about shame, the one that went viral and got her famous. She talks about having a vulnerability hangover. It's like when you open up and you share who you really are, and you know, you kind of put yourself on the line, and you could be ridiculed or rejected or ruined, you know, abandoned, cast away from your people. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I opened myself up and like I didn't get the response I wanted, or you know, nobody cared, or I was like laughed at or rejected. They threw tomatoes, they booed me, rotten cabbage. So it's like you get this vulnerability hangover, and because of that, like your ego is like, hey, time to shut off again, time to like shut down, push people out, close off, act like nothing matters, act like, you know, you don't care. This is the part of your ego that's going to seek to be controlling or manipulative, or put a lot of bravado out, and like put a mask on, present yourself, you know, in a way that's like not genuine or not earnest. So resist the urge, because all of this that's happening, this enlightenment, this epiphany, this beauty that's opening up, it's all coming through because your heart is opening. And so this is very threatening to the ego, which fears that it's going to be annihilated. And we're not annihilating the ego. We need a healthy ego, right? Ego has its place. We just need it healthy. So be careful and be aware. Watch out for your ego to try to pop up and, cause you to want to close off again from that vulnerability hangover, but don't do it. And then what do we have here? Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords is a moment where it's like you suddenly have a lot of clarity and inspiration, and you know what you want to do and you know what needs to be done, and then you're just like, all right, hop to it, let's go. So the Knight of Swords is the fastest moving knight in the tarot. He's the one that's like at a full gallop, like, I see the thing that I need to go after, and I'm going after it. I see the thing that needs to be done, and I'm going to do it. Like they see the detail. They're very astute, very communicative. So, this is the realm, the swords are the realm of communication, thoughts, ideas, writing, that kind of creativity and speaking, communication. So Mercury has been retrograde. I feel like by next week, all the planets are supposed to be direct again, including Mars, which has been retrograde in Mercury. So I feel like there, a lot of the consensus here has been that it's going to be a lot easier to say what you've been wanting to say, but it just hasn't felt like the right time, or you haven't known how to like put into words, or you feel like you've been trying to communicate to people, but like nothing's been getting across. Like no one's been like receiving what you've been saying, or like you've been asking for help and like no one's been doing what you've been asking, like all that stuff. Like it's going to be like all those planets are moving forward. So it's going to be easier to say what you need to say. It's going to be easier to communicate. You're going to not feel held back anymore. You may have a surge of creativity as well, particularly in communication, writing, and things like that. You might even be writing some poetry. Maybe it's good that you communicate through poetry. Something to take into consideration. Sometimes our cards can kind of be really literal. Yeah. And maybe, I just had a thought, maybe there's someone out there that wants to publish their poetry, and maybe this is a good time to send some out to maybe a place that you've been looking at. There's like online literature magazines and like poetry sites and poetry zines and things like that. And then there's like physical ones still. So you can get your poetry out there and get it published if you want. Maybe it's time. All right, and then I wanted to read from the book about the poet. That particular card really stood out to me. All right, here it is. The artist, the witness, the truth teller. The poet's work is to feel immensely and not be afraid. They must seek out truth in the darkest corners of the world and carry it back for all to see. This unique capacity resides within us all, regardless of our relationship to creativity. When the poet energy is present, there is a call for deep honesty and reflection, for seeing the big picture within the little one. The poet rides effortlessly between the personal and the universal. It's possible that others may not seem to listen or care about the poet's work, but do not be discouraged. The words of the poet ring true for centuries to come, soothing the wounds of despair and violence that captivate our world. The poet's work is never finished. Find your voice and trust that the wind will carry it. The poet is related to the shaman and the bridge. These archetypes hover in the meeting place between everyday and the sacred. It's likely there is a poem or poet that was meaningful to you at a young age. Revisit and reread it now. Be open to its message. When light, the poet energy is clairvoyant, wise, and timeless. When dark, harmful words, sharp tongue, thwarted creativity. To go deeper, spend 1 hour reading poetry and then one more. For me, I loved poetry always. I had a book of like old English verse that I used to read and everything. I remember The Lady of Shalott was in it, and I was like, oh my God, I am so like Anne with an E right now, Anne of Green Gables. And then one of my other favorite poetry books was A Night Without Armor by Jewel. She's a really good poetry. She's a really good poetry. She's a really good poet, or at least I liked her. I still like her. Ay. All right, you guys. Well, I will post this and then make our Oracle manifestation video. See you in a few. Bye.